You are never going to be happy, and here's why. There's a lot of debate about what really brings true happiness, from pursuing your goals and pursuing your passions to finding that right job for you, finding that perfect person, or simply having that cup of coffee in the morning. And while all those things are great, none of them are going to guarantee you happiness. Well, except maybe the coffee. Okay, I might have made some assumptions there in the beginning, but if you, like me, are on your own journey of self-development and working on making yourself a better person, you might have felt that the more you strive towards those goals of happiness and self-fulfillment, the further away it feels from you. This begs us to ask the question, have we been going about finding happiness and self-fulfillment completely wrong? About a year ago, I stumbled upon a talk by a British writer by the name of Alan Watts. In this recording of one of his lectures, Alan Watts spoke about a concept that addresses the question we just posed, and he termed it the backwards law. In this talk, Alan Watts explained the backwards law by referring to an example, and I quote, "When you try to stay on the surface of water, you sink, but when you try to sink, you float, and that insecurity is the result of trying to be secure." This can be similarly attributed to the quote by Matthew, which states, "For whomever wants to save their life will lose it, but whomever loses their life for me will find it." While this is a very great illustration and it's a very helpful tip if you want to stay afloat, how is this going to help us find true happiness? But let us look at another example to further illustrate this point. And yes, I put on my glasses for this point so you know we're getting serious. Imagine with me, if you will, that it's a cold winter's night and it's just completely bucketing down with rain, and by the sound of it you think it's also hailing. You're wrapped in blankets in front of the TV and you have a cup of hot chocolate with you with marshmallows and everything. You take one soothing sip as it warms your mouth. You can almost taste it by just imagining it. Okay, now completely stop thinking about the mug of hot chocolate. Do not think of the delicious mug of hot chocolate with the marshmallows inside. Do not think of that. It's hard to do, isn't it? Asking yourself to stop thinking about the mug of hot chocolate is in itself recalling the same mug of hot chocolate that you know you should stop thinking about, and therefore causing you to think about it even more. Whereas if you just focused on something completely different, you wouldn't have this problem, and at the same time, you wouldn't be thinking about the thing you know you should stop thinking about, the mug of hot chocolate. Therefore, if you leave the thought alone, it will dissipate by itself without you having to try, as trying not to think about it is not going to work. This can be directly applied to our pursuit of happiness and self-development. The more you strive to be happy, the less happy you'll feel, as you're essentially focusing on its absence. The more we focus on becoming better versions of ourselves, the more we realize how imperfect we actually are. So essentially, in order to achieve that state of being that we so desire, we should not focus our efforts on becoming so. Instead, we should rather let it be and we will have it. So why is this so hard for us to grasp? In a world where we are constantly being sold at every turn, telling us that we need the new latest and greatest piece of technology, that new car, that fancy house, or that collector's edition Star Wars figurine in order to truly be happy, we have been conditioned to feel like we're in a constant state of lack, and the only solution is to constantly strive for more in order to truly be happy. But that simply isn't true, and we know this all too well. If you just take time to think back to something that you really wanted, like the latest iPad, maybe you saved up for it, you debated with yourself which is the best version for your needs, you read reviews, you watched countless videos of people telling you why this iPad is the best, how it will change your productivity, change your life, change your marriage, land you that dream job that you've always wanted. You couldn't stop thinking about this one thing and how happy you'd be if you finally get it. Then finally the day came and you bought that iPad. You experienced what seemed like true bliss. This is what happiness must feel like. Till next month, when the hedonic treadmill has run its course and you're back to a stable level of happiness. The point I'm trying to make is that what you thought would bring you everlasting happiness was probably very short-lived, and that in pursuing happiness you eventually became less happy as you were focusing on your lack of happiness in your current state. As Seneca brilliantly said so many centuries ago, He who is not contented with what he has would not be contented with what he would like to have. This completely debunks the myth that happiness and fulfillment can come from any external sources. So then what now? Does this mean that we should not strive towards anything? And no, that is not what the backwards law is proposing we do at all. This does not mean that we accept mediocrity and that we're not going to strive towards anything anymore. But this should make us realize that striving towards that goal, that thing that we want to achieve, is not going to make us any different or any more happy than we are right now. Having more money in the bank after your basic needs are met isn't going to provide you with significantly more happiness than you have right now. And a lot of studies concur this. But when we stop trying to chase becoming rich, we will live in abundance because we're happy and content with what we have right now. Inversely, if we're striving to become rich as our beacon for success and happiness, our current reality will leave us focusing on the lack we have and magnify that lack as we see and look towards what we need to do and achieve in order to truly be happy. So continue to improve yourself, continue to set goals that excite you, continue to do things that make you better, but do not let your goals become a hindrance to your current happiness right now, but do so with the knowledge that you are not striving towards this goal in order to achieve a different state of being. It is important to note that if you're here asking these kinds of questions, you are very fortunate, as these are quite higher level questions to be asking yourself. If we take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you'd probably have all your basic needs met by now. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking these questions about happiness and self-fulfillment. So recognize how fortunate you are to be in this position right now. So how do we make this practical and actually remember the backwards law and keep us from falling into the grind of striving for happiness and success? It ultimately all boils down to practicing gratitude, acceptance, and contentment. Practice gratitude for the things you are thankful for. You can practice gratitude by getting a day journal and journaling every day 3 things that you are thankful for that day. This will entirely change your outlook for the day and over time change your mind from one of lack to one of abundance. Practice acceptance for accepting that where you are in life right now might not be where you think you want to be, and that's okay. Accept that where you are and what you're doing in order to get to your desired goals is enough. Practicing contentment is very similar to acceptance, as we are deciding to be happy with our current circumstances. Not complacent, but happy with what we have right now, as we are all each on our own journey. I would like to leave you with one last quote from famous neurologist Viktor Frankl, which reaffirms everything that we just said, and I hope that it sticks with you. He says, and I quote, "Don't aim for success. For the more you aim at it and make it a target, the more you are going to miss it. For success, like happiness, cannot be pursued, it must ensue, and it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself, or as a byproduct of one's surrender to a person other than oneself. Happiness must happen, and the same holds for success. You have to let it happen by not caring about it. I want you to listen to what your conscience commands you to do and carry it out to the best of your knowledge. Then you will see that in the long run I say, success will follow you precisely because you had forgotten to think about it." So I hope that this video made you think of success and happiness in a different light and made you realize that what you want might not be as far out of your grasp as you once thought it was. I hope that you continue to remind yourself of this, as something like this can be easily forgotten in the rush of day-to-day life. So take care, and I will see you next time.